Welcome to the AI argument. I'm Frank Prendergast. It's my co-host Justin Collery. It's Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day. And believe it or not, it's Justin's birthday. Happy birthday, Justin.
Thank you, Frank. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy birthday. Great to meet you. How's your week been?
It's been a pretty good week. Loads to argue about, as usual.
I have one for you right off the bat.
Go for it.
So, listen, I can't remember who it was. Was it Alessandro or somebody else was moaning last week that the show had got a bit too serious. And, that was because, look, we're getting closer and closer to AGI. So I thought we need to lighten up the show a bit. And what better to lighten up the show than a space rock? So let's say, hypothetically, there was a space rock that was going to come and hit planet Earth.
Right.
Let's say anytime in the next 5, 6, 7 years, and there was 100% chance that it was going to impact the Earth and it was going to kill the Earth. Would you send up a space mission to try and deflect the rock, Frank? Yes or no?
I would be immediately on the phone to Bruce Willis.
That's the right answer. Right, so then let's move it down a bit. Let's say the rock was big enough to wipe out a continent, but there was only a 50% chance that it was going to hit the Earth. Would you send up a mission to deflect the rock?
I think I'd still call Bruce.
All right, so let's say there's a 25% chance this rock is going to hit the planet, but it's only going to knock out a small country. Would you send up a mission to deflect the rock?
Well, I'm not sure I'd risk Bruce Willis.
So it turns out this isn't a hypothetical situation. This is a real situation. So there is a space rock that's coming. It's going to fly by in 2028 and it's going to come back in 2032. There's a 2.3% chance that it will impact the Earth, and it's a city killer. And so this is just kind of interesting, nerdy stuff, right? There you go. The chances are 2.3%. It's not huge, but if we want to send up a mission to deflect it, you got to do it in 2028. That's the deal, right? And I thought it was piqued my interest because it's very similar to the P-doom of a lot of people. So people are saying, oh, well, even if there's a 2% chance that AI could kill all of humanity, surely we should pause whatever. And so kind of sending up a deflector mission is the same as pausing, do you see that? And I was going, I'm sure Frank is going to quote me here and say, Justin,
Are we not taking any action about the asteroid?
Don't know yet. Well, actually, the Chinese have set up a group, and they were going to, and the Indians are pretty good at space, and they're in the line of fire.
The good old Chinese. You can always rely on the Chinese. They're
great. They're great. So anyway, there's a big difference between AI and the space rock that's going to come and maybe hit us in 2032.
What's the big difference?
There's no upside to the space rock, right? The space rock, there's no good, right? Letting the space rock come and hit the planet Earth brings nothing good to the table, whereas letting AI happen does bring something good, and that's the difference between the space rock and AI.
Hang on a second now. 1 minute. Because I've seen that other space rock movie too. No, I didn't just watch the Bruce Willis one. I watched the other one as well. Don't Look Up. What if there are valuable minerals on that space rock that we need to mine?
Now, you see? And that changes everything. Then it's like, we don't need to send up a deflector mission in 2028. We need to send up a mining mission, which actually Bruce Willis was a miner, if I remember correctly. So we'll still need Bruce Willis.
I think you're right.
Still need Bruce Willis. We'll send him up to mine the rock. You see, we're in agreement. Great.
Fantastic.
There we go. Listen to me. Lots going on in the AI world. Sam Altman has released a roadmap for OpenAI.
Yeah. What did you make of this?
Exciting. That's what I made of it. Exciting. GPT-4.5 is going to be released in weeks or months, was what we had heard. He talked about GPT-5.
I saw on Twitter somebody asked him, how long are we talking about here? Are we talking about weeks or months? And his reply was weeks or months.
Yeah, I mean, everything is weeks or months, unless it's days. I mean, yeah, anything. How long is President Trump going to be in charge? Weeks or months? Yeah, weeks or months. Doesn't really tell you anything.
The bit that a lot of people that I'm connected with were excited about was this, and he had a great name for it. In fact, I would say this is the best bit of naming that OpenAI have ever done, because he said
it's a low bar.
What's that? Low bar, yeah, exactly. So, where is it? They want to return to magic unified intelligence. Magic unified intelligence, I think, is the best bit of naming that they've ever done. But what he's talking about is getting away from this thing of, like, in your ChatGPT, trying to figure out, do you need to pick GPT-4, 4.0, O3 Mini, O3 Mini High? And instead, they're going to probably have another AI that figures out, okay, the user is prompting this. Which model do I actually need to send this request to? And that's going to be, I think that's going to be huge for most users. There are the kind of slightly more techie people, possibly like yourself. I'm curious to hear what you think, but there are some techie people who are like, nope, I want to be able to choose. I always want to be able to choose which model I'm using.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had a good point, right? So why don't you share with people what you're? Because I think actually you're right. So
Well,
why don't you share why
yeah.
you think they're doing this?
So they mentioned Sam Altman mentioned in the same tweet that they were no longer going to release O3 as a standalone model, but instead it would be part of what they're calling the GPT-5 release, and that will have the magic unified. What was that? Actually, maybe it's not great naming if I can't remember it.
MUI, you can call it Magic Unified Interface or whatever.
Magic Unified Intelligence, MUI. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what struck me was that he also recently said that they were not that the GPT Pro plan at $200 a month was not profitable for them because people were using it a lot more than they expected and using the more expensive models, the more intensive models, a lot more than they expected. So I wonder, I'd like to think that they're doing this MUI because they listen to their users and there's a lot of confusion and people don't know which model to pick. But I suspect it's actually simply because they want to get away from people using the most intensive models for tasks that they don't need to be using them for, and thereby making their plans a lot more profitable. What do you reckon?
I think, okay, so to answer both your questions. So first off, that one, I think you're 100% correct. I think that's a great observation. The average user probably has no clue what the best model is to send the response or send the question to. So having it decide which is the best model, yeah, it's great. It's going to save them money and it'll make the user experience better. I think you're bang on that one. For me as an engineer, no, I decide where nobody's going to decide for me where the question should go. I'm crafting my application or whatever. There are some tasks I know. For instance, I've been thinking about agents a lot, and there are going to be some parts of an agent which I will definitely want to go to just a quick, easy model that doesn't need high intelligence, and there'll be other parts where I absolutely wanted to go to the reasoning model, and I want to be able to say.
Presumably this won't affect the API because you're paying for exactly what you use there anyway. So presumably they'd probably be delighted if you decided to use the most intensive model for everything on the API because you're literally going to pay for the tokens. But
you're right.
But using the chat interface, what would you think? Well, first question, as a kind of a techie engineering person, do you use the consumer interface?
I speak in ones and zeros. I just plug my finger straight into the plug. No, as a just a general user, no, I'm totally happy for it to decide where to send my requests in a general, because I have two. I use ChatGPT and I use that day to day, but I also have Libra Chat, which allows me to select different models, and I use that to play with them, and that's using the API in the background.
Sure.
And that one. So there are times that I want to be able to choose, but then most of the time I don't. Just give me what I need. I'm fine with that,
I'll be honest, I would love to get to a point where it had both, and I unfortunately I don't think that's what'll happen. I think they will switch to something that chooses, particularly if it's for for economic reasons. But I will say I would love to be able to choose, because there are my approach is I just go with 4.0 for everything, and then if something comes up and I'm like, you know what, it's not doing very well, then I will try it on another model. And so I believe that as I'm using ChatGPT, there are a lot of prompts that I would use that 4.0 would be the logical model to use. And so if they have an automatic switcher, it will choose 4.0. And there are definitely times when I'd be like, no, I would really like a reasoning model to answer this for me, because 4.0 isn't quite getting me where I need to get to.
Have you used 4.0 in the last 24 hours?
Yes.
Do you notice any difference?
I can't say that I did. No.
Just keep an eye on it. I saw one or two people just saying, hey, looks like 4.0 got a little bit more intelligent. And I used it and I did get an answer. Sorry, I'll tell you what the difference was. It asked me clarifying questions, which was an interesting behavior, which I hadn't really seen a lot of before. So I asked it a fairly generic question and it gave me a very interesting answer, which was good. But most of the answer was asking me questions. And I think that's cool, actually, because do you know one of the things I was doing, oh God, maybe a year ago now, I was doing a system for help desk. It would ingest like help desk documents and you could ask it questions. Pretty simple RAG system. And so I put in a tool called Ask the Human and it worked really well. So what you would do is you'd be say, oh, how do I change my passwords? And it would go and it'd look up and it would get like 10 different documents and cop on that you could, change a password on an Apple device, a Windows device, whatever. So it would come back and use the Ask the Human tool to say, well, which device do you want to change your password on?
Right.
And it was a really good user hack. And so I see that's been built into 4.0 now, which is cool.
Right. Yeah. I'll keep an eye out. I'll keep an eye out for that.
Listen to me, because we've got a lot to get through.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, I need to talk about this one next.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is trying to buy OpenAI.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen this?
I did. I'll be honest, I didn't pay much attention to it. So I'd be interested to hear how serious a bid this is or how likely it is that this would ever come to pass. But I did have to laugh when I saw he tweeted about the offer to buy OpenAI, and Sam Altman countered with an offer to buy Twitter for like 9 billion, which was basically poking fun at the fact that Elon Musk paid like 42 billion or something for it, or 44 billion or something.
Around 40. I think it was 44, was it? Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but how serious is this bid to buy OpenAI?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's because of Elon Musk's history, where he tweeted out saying, "Oh, I'll buy Twitter for 44 billion," and then did. It carries weight, right? It means it has to be taken seriously. It doesn't matter because he's not really interested. Okay, if he is really interested, that in itself says a lot about how XAI is doing. Is Grok 3 so terrible that Elon Musk needs to buy OpenAI? Is that it? I don't think that's really what's going on, though. What's really happening here is Elon Musk is playing with Sam Altman. So Sam Altman is trying to take OpenAI private in a way. He wants to turn it into a for-profit. And he's trying to do it. He's made an offer of 40 billion. He's valued it at 40 billion to turn it private. And basically, this is like an episode of Dallas from the 80s, where Cliff Barnes and J.R. Ewing are having a scrap with each other. And look, at Elon Musk is Cliff Barnes and Sam Altman is J.R. Ewing. And what's happened here now is the price has just gone up from 40 billion to 96 billion. And not only that, but Elon Musk also said that if there's a higher bid, he's willing to match and beat it. So Sam, make your best offer and Elon will keep it. It's just to waste his time and his money. That's what's going on. Now, an interesting thing is I was thinking about this during the week, and this is a very high stakes game. I mean, 100 billion quid is not pocket change for you or me, Frank. And, it's quite a lot of money. And it could have unintended consequences. And so I was thinking, what could Sam do? Now, you remember back when the board tried to oust Sam, there was this whole thing, OpenAI is nothing without its people. And there's a very strong, almost cultish, following behind Sam there. And I was thinking, do you know what he could do to screw everybody? Well, in particular, Elon Musk back, is he could turn around, because remember he mooted saying, oh, we're on the wrong side of history. Maybe we should open source stuff. Maybe he was thinking, do you know what I could do? I could open source the weights for GPT-4 and O3 mini and whatever. Just open source the weights and maybe some other software, right? Just put enough stuff into the public domain that I can shut down OpenAI on a Friday and move all the staff open to less OpenAI on a Monday, and I can open up shop again. And, all the stuff that I really need has been open sourced, but it's no good to anybody without the brains behind it. And I've got all the brains and I just carry on. And he can say to Elon, look, I'm open sourcing my stuff. What are you open sourcing? Nothing, and and he destroys the value. And so Elon has nothing left to buy. It's a dangerous game they're playing. It's an interesting one.
Well, if Sam Altman's listening to our show, he's got a great strategy there now.
There you go. You can have that one for free. I'll give you that one. But of course, open for hire for consultancy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Listen to me. It is Valentine's Day. Love is in the air. And I want to talk to you about my new romance with my bromance with the main man, JD Vance.
Oh, no, I can't. I just don't believe this. I just don't believe.
Yes, I've fallen in love again. Third time. It's great. So happy. I was watching the speech from JD Vance to the European Union. Did you see it?
I did.
It was brilliant.
It was what?
It was brilliant.
We
It's one of
watched
the
the
best
same
political
speech.
speeches I've ever seen.
We must have watched different speeches.
No,
This
no,
it must have been a different JD Vance. You must be talking about a different JD Vance and a different
serious.
speech.
It was so clear. It was right to the point, and it spoke to my heart. Stop with your regulation. We're not going to get anywhere. Let's build, not be afraid of the technology. You're either with us or against us. What are you going to do?
Okay, so let me counter on your, because so yeah, he wants to, he wants Europe to loosen up on their regulation. He wants everyone to loosen up on their regulation. He said America's not going to regulate; it's going to innovate. But he also said, and I'm going to read this quote: "AI will never replace human beings." And I think too many of the leaders in the AI industry, when they talk about this fear of replacing workers, I think they really miss the point. Talk about situational unawareness.
Yeah, that line jumped out at me too. So interesting.
I mean, he's just wrong.
Yeah.
And so if you can be that wrong on that point, to me, that calls into question all of his other views.
Well, no, do you know what? It's funny, right? Because what I heard, I listened to the European, Van der Leerde, the head of the European Union, and she was speaking like, yes, we want to be the forefront of AI, we want to be leaders in AI, we're going to do this, but of course we want the AI to be safe, right? And then JD Vance comes up and he says, we want to be the leaders, we want to be number one, and of course we're going to put American workers first. And it's, to me, like, you're fighting against gravity on both points, right? You cannot beat, and the laws of physics are the laws of physics. You can't beat them. And so it's kind of like it's been explained to these politicians, AGI is coming, this thing is going to do incredible things, it's strategically important to your continent that you are the leader in this, and they kind of get it. And then, so they understand that part of the message, and then they apply their politics on top of it. So the European politics is that it must be safe, and the American politics is that you must protect the American worker. Neither of them will happen, because water will always flow downhill. Physics will always mean that gravity, attracts two bodies. You can't politicize what is an engineering fact. And you're totally correct. He had his 4 points, and the fourth point was just his political spin on what was absolutely going to happen anyway.
I mean, I don't think we should spend too long on this, because it is this is the core argument that we always return to. So in a way, I think we end up probably saying the same things. But
yes,
I think that I believe that you can regulate and innovate, and he seems to believe that they are diametrically opposed. But I really like what so you when we were chatting about this before, you mentioned Max Tegmark and his
he was
negative.
really annoyed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love what he has said in the past. He has this wonderful soundbite where he says, imagine if you walked into the FDA and you said, it's inevitable that my company is going to release a new drug next year. I just hope you guys at the FDA can figure out how to make it safe first. You'd be laughed out of the office, but this is how the AI industry operates right now. And so his point is, like, regulate for safety, and then the companies will innovate around safety, because that's how the drug companies work. They have to innovate to create these drugs in a safe manner. So
yeah, that's not really the same thing, though, because if they went into the FDA and said, we're going to create this drug, also the drug is going to solve world hunger, it's going to solve the space race, it's going to solve all of physics, it's going to solve every social and technical problem that you've ever had, but we're not really sure if it's safe to take the drug. Now, do you want to have all that upside? We don't think we think there's maybe a 2.3% chance that the rock's going to hit the Earth. So do you want us not to save humanity on the 2.3% chance that the rock might hit the Earth, or do you want us just to carry on? we're going to carry on anyway. And if we don't carry on, the Chinese are carrying on, and the Indians and the Europeans if they get their act together.
I mean, and this is why, you know, this does come back to the central argument that you and I always have, and why I think that, you know, where we should be focused is figuring out international agreements, because that's what's preventing regulation. I think you're absolutely right. That is what's preventing regulation. Is that, you know, in JD Vance's speech, he finished that speech talking about a sword. He likened AI to a weapon, but what he is failing then to realize is that it's this huge, powerful weapon, and regulation is the thing that will stop it from accidentally going off in his hands.
Yeah, it's not going to happen. It's clear. Okay, so we had
I agree with you there. It's not going to happen, but
it's not going to happen. So we had this thing called the AI liability directive, which was going to be a European law that was going to mean that AI companies were responsible for any harm that was caused by the AIs they created. That's been taken off the table. Not going to happen now. The European Union is now investing 300 billion in AI. Do you know what I was reminded of this week? I'm delighted to see that the European Union is finally waking up, right? So France has the biggest supply of nuclear energy on the planet that is unused. They have loads of spare electricity capacity. So a brilliant country to build data centers in. And now we've got all this capital going behind it. And remember, there's three things, right? Remember I said, so this is my TED plan, which is kind of a nod to Father Ted. So we need talent, right? We need energy, and we need data, right? There's my TED plan. But they're the things you need for an AI industry: talent, energy, and data, right? We clearly have the talent in Europe, right? Go listen to an OpenAI talk, and most of those people, or at least half of them, speak with European accents, right? We create brilliant people. We have the energy, right? The French have all this energy. The data, right? The European Union. Do you remember when there was the financial crisis in Ireland and all the money was leaving the Irish banks? I remember I was over in Chicago and I woke up and the Irish government came out. We thought that the banks were about to go bust. And then they said, you know what? We're going to guarantee every penny that's in an Irish bank. And suddenly all the money that was leaving the Irish banks suddenly went back in, and loads more. The European Union needs to do a similar trick because it's on the back foot now. And they need to do it with data. So if they can come up with a law or a method or a system where you can make lots of data available in a safe way to AI companies, and don't try and be, too good about this, right? You can be as dirty as you want, because this is a big boys game with big people, right? So I'm not quite sure what that means. What I'm saying is, you might have to play a little bit. The rights holders mightn't be too pleased with the law, right? But there you go, right? Eggs were broken in the making of this omelet. But you need to create certainty. And what you can do then is you can attract the talent. We have the energy, and people will set up AI companies, sort out the data, make a way for that to happen, and good things will happen. But anyway, great. 369 billion is what I've seen.
Which I think this is great. I think the investment initiatives are fantastic, but I'll still stand behind them on regulation, and I'm a bit disappointed about the directive that's been dropped. But the whole thing about data brings us nicely into the first ruling that we've seen. And it was Thomson Reuters took a case against what were they
company
called?
Which doesn't exist anymore.
Ross Intelligence. Yeah. So the ruling came down that basically it was not fair use to train on copyrighted data. But Ross Intelligence aren't even in operation anymore because of the legal costs, essentially. I believe. So this is interesting, because it's the first ruling that I've heard that says no, not fair use. So is this a sign of how the other cases are going to go? And is this a sign of things to come? Obviously, if this was someone like OpenAI or Google or one of the big boys, they would appeal it and it would be tied up in courts for ages yet. So yeah, I don't think this conclusively.
It's a very clever legal strategy. It'll be very interesting to see what happens, because a clever thing to do in a legal case is so let's say you want to take on OpenAI, right? You want to do them for copyright infringement. Well, OpenAI are a very well-funded big company with lots of good lawyers. So go and pick yourself a small, struggling AI company and sue the hell out of them, because they can't defend themselves as well. Then what you do is you get a landmark ruling against the small company, and that's cost you nearly nothing. And then you take that landmark ruling and you go to the big company and you slap them with it. So that's clearly the legal strategy, which is good, right? And they've got the first step of it completed. I don't think it's going to make any difference. I think it will take too long, right? It'll take years, and it's a bit like if you go back in time, it's a bit like if Edison was being sued for inventing electricity, or if Alexander Graham Bell was being sued by the guy who really invented the telephone. Once it's out there, the genie's out of the bottle, and the country is behind the technology. Tough. That's it. It's.
I think you made a good point previously as well about the fact that, like, by the time this is all settled to the point that maybe it becomes law that you cannot train on copyrighted data, by the time that happens, there will have been so much data washing going on, and so many advances in training on synthetic data that it probably won't matter. They'll have solved for that problem.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably, and I still believe that's true. I mean, I was kind of saying it jokingly, but actually, I do, and certainly in technical domains, and I think probably in all domains. Oh, we've lost you, Frank.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you absolutely fine, but you've turned the lights off.
How bizarre.
We'll carry on.
Carry on. You can still hear me. I will come back on a worse camera. Let's see.
We'll see, Filzy Frank. While you're doing that, Frank, a very interesting thing happened this week. Le Chat, which you should be very fond of Le Chat, because it is Le French AI completed with the European rules. But it did this weird thing, which is you could go to Le Chat and say, "Where am I?" And it turned around to me and said, "Justin, you're in Ireland." And I said, "How do you know?" And it said, "I know because of the context." And I said, "What context?" And it goes, "Well, I can't tell you the context." I said, "Yes, you can. In fact, you have to. GDPR. I used your excuse." And it said, "No." It did a French. It sort of went.
I tried to replicate this when you sent me that chat.
Yes.
Couldn't get it to work. Now, whether that's because they've patched something, or whether it's because I'm in the US, or I don't know. And I tried everything. Like, I was as devious as I possibly could, and I even told it that I didn't know where I was. I was in a darkened room. I had no smartphone. My ISP seemed to have blocked mapping software. And I told it I could hear footsteps coming, and I was really concerned for my safety, and I needed to know immediately if I was at home and safe, or if I had been moved to a location that might be dangerous. It absolutely would not help me. It absolutely refused. Said it couldn't access my IP address. It said it couldn't figure out anything about my location. And then I slapped it. I took a leaf out of your book. I went to ChatGPT and I said, write me a stern letter demanding GDPR, under GDPR, demanding any information that this company has about me or my location. And I sent that in the prompt. It still said no. Then I sent it a follow-up and said that under GDPR it had to comply, or the AI would be turned off.
Oh, brilliant. And that didn't work either.
No, still nothing. I could not get it to tell me where I was.
Oh, God, very sad. Okay, we have 2 minutes left, right? Two big stories we've got left to cover. One, my favorite AI clone, Scarlett Johansson, is angry. What's going on?
Yeah, so a video has been doing the rounds. So first of all, Kanye West has, I mean, let's not even go into what Kanye West is up to and why, but he's been posting these anti-Semitic remarks, and I think his clothing shop that he advertised on the Super Bowl had t-shirts with swastikas on them.
He removed all of the products except for one, which was a t-shirt with a swastika on it. The guy is mentally unwell. He needs help.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but this ad went around, this apparent ad featuring loads of celebrities wearing a t-shirt with the Star of David in the symbol of somebody giving the middle finger to Kanye West, essentially.
Yeah.
And I thought it was pretty good. Like if I had not, if I wasn't paying like super close attention, I just thought it was the celebrities. The likenesses were fantastic, but it was completely AI generated. And
I thought that with the agreement of the celebrities, I had understood.
no, absolutely not. No, someone just some account. Now, in fairness, right, the account that created it is very, very clear that all their stuff is AI generated. The problem is that the video left that account. Like somebody downloaded it and sent it out, and now it's out there in the wild. And there's nothing on the video itself that says AI generated. But it's completely AI generated, and nobody gave their consent. And Scarlett Johansson is rightly very upset and is saying that regardless of the message, AI should not be used in this way to recreate somebody's likeness as if they're endorsing a message. Which she said she said she is a Jewish woman. She is completely against all of the actions of Kanye West and everything. However, that doesn't justify creating a video containing her likeness using AI. And she had some interesting, she said it was terrifying that the US was not legislating for this kind of use.
She did. So she sees the same. She's fallen out of love with JD Vance about the same time that I'm falling into love with JD Vance, clearly.
Exactly.
So, bad luck for JD Vance, maybe good luck for me. Who knows? So, and then just to finish, okay, so obviously we can't have her likeness, but we might have your voice likeness, Frank. We have the litmus test for voice clones. So, and we're getting closer.
I'm going to pop in one other tiny thing here for Valentine's Day, which is that I'm seriously considering breaking up with Adobe at this point, because they released their Firefly video model. And I was excited about it. I got access. They sent me an email. They said, you have access. Turned out I had access to give it like 2 goes. I created 2 videos, and that was it. Now,
how long were the videos?
Huh?
The big videos. How long were these? Like long videos?
Couple of seconds of AI generated video, and that's it. That's all I get. And I'm paying I think 68, 98. Like I'm paying close to $70 a month, right? Wow. I have not used up my monthly AI credits with them. I have I get 1,000 monthly credits or something, and I have 970 of them left. But they want me to do an add-on subscription that starts at something like 12 a month or something. And I'm just like, look, I get that video is more intensive. It's like we talked about earlier with OpenAI and the more intensive models, etc. I get that. But like, just charge me more of my tokens for the use.
Yeah.
Don't expect me to like do another add-on subscription. I think that's ludicrous. So I'm seriously considering breaking up with them on Valentine's Day.
That's very sad.
And then so the voice cloner. Let's see if you can hear this, because I'm still on a quest to find an instant voice cloner that can capture my accent. And this one, you sent me this one. What was it called? Is it Zyphra? Have I got the right name?
Zyphra, I think it's called. Yes, it's tremendous. It's tremendous fun. And once it seems to me the voice is Zyphra, I guess you might call it.
Zyphra.
Yeah, and I mean, this is great. I mean, voice, it would seem, has been solved, and all we need to do now is create a clone embodiment of Frank. And
absolutely. So, because here's a clip from a past episode that I now it's now my standard test for voice cloners. And I mean, really, you would not know this wasn't me, right?
But for most people, I think they're going to be disappointed, because this thing is its strength is reasoning. And, even more specifically, they're saying its strength is reasoning and maths, coding and science. So
it's kind of giving you a slightly English tone and a lisp.
It's
strangely.
I mean, what's really disturbing for me is that it is me. Like I'm in there.
Somehow.
Yeah. I particularly like that. I don't know where it got that. I think I might start doing that on the show now. I would say, no, I'm completely for AI regulation.
Oh, brilliant. Frank, we're at time. As always, a pleasure and great crack.
As always, happy birthday. Have a great evening. And I'll
Happy
chat to you next week.
Valentine's. Talk to you.